Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer McNeill, and I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing for New Flyer and MCI's public sector business. First, thanks to Marco and the CUTA team for hosting this conference virtually again. It is no small feat to pivot a major event such as this one. The past year has presented incredible challenges. Our industry remained dedicated to serving the public during a global public health crisis, and we've been managing risks and overcoming obstacles every day since. Despite this fourth wave in the pandemic, with the vaccine rollout, we're feeling hopeful about recovery and looking forward to a brighter future. On both sides of the border, unprecedented levels of funding for public transit are under debate, focused on zero-emission vehicles and infrastructure and on workforce development, all with the promise of building back better. But the billion or perhaps trillion-dollar question is, what is better? This is a really timely question on so many political fronts. To me, though, better means addressing both the causes and the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and learning lessons from this unique moment in history. Those of you that know me know that I'm a self-professed nerd who always looks for a scientific or mathematical explanation for the world around me. Scientists have clearly drawn the linkage between new pathogens that cross over between animals and humans, like COVID-19, SARS, or Ebola, to climate change and a loss of biodiversity and buffering species. The evidence supports the One Health concept, this idea that human health, animal health, and our planet's health are inextricably connected. The UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change issued an update report this past August, which provided new estimates. And this is a quote from their press release. Unless there are immediate, rapid, and large-scale reductions in greenhouse gas emissions, limiting warming to close to 1.5 degrees Celsius or even 2 degrees Celsius will be beyond reach. So unless we take bold and decisive action today, we will likely continue to face outcomes like global pandemics and natural disasters. The good news is that there have been enhanced goals announced this year. In Canada, Prime Minister Trudeau announced an enhanced emissions reduction goal of 40 to 45% by 2030. The US rejoined the Paris Climate Agreement, and President Biden announced the US will target reducing emissions 50 to 52% by 2030. UK Prime Minister Johnson announced that the UK will cut carbon emissions by 78% by 2035, bringing forward the current target for reducing carbon emissions by 15 years. While debates are ongoing as to whether or not these emission reduction levels are enough, I think we can agree that the commitments represent a significant do different for our world. For us, the major do different is zero-emission public transit, and we're thrilled to see funding commitments announced by the Canadian government this year, as well as our friends south of the border. In Canada, our country set an ambitious goal to get 5,000 zero-emission buses on the road by 2025. It was accompanied by a record $33.6 billion investment in the Canada Infrastructure Program, including funding for public transit with a climate and green infrastructure lens. Earlier this summer, the US Congress released a 5-year, $547 billion surface transportation reauthorization bill, also known as the INVEST Act, which is focused on creating good-paying jobs to rebuild and reimagine America's surface transportation infrastructure. With $109 billion marked for transit, the INVEST Act proposes record investments in accessible and equitable transit, zero-emission deployment at scale, and workforce development, the largest investments our generation has ever seen. The UK government's national bus strategy aims to accelerate the transition to more sustainable transport, including delivering 4,000 new British-built electric or hydrogen buses across England and safeguarding the UK bus manufacturing industry. When we talk about the economic impact of the pandemic in forums such as these ones, most of the time we focus on the impacts of reduced ridership and the need for relief funding for transit. But here, I think the concept of building back better forces us to look through a broader lens, understanding the economic impact in global output and the financial strain on individuals and businesses, in order to create a more resilient economy for our country going forward, and one that's able to withstand crises. The IMF projected the cumulative loss in global output relative to pre-pandemic levels will be $11 trillion by the end of this year, and depending on the path to recovery, could be 28 trillion by 2025. Canada is more fortunate than many countries, expected to reach pre-pandemic levels later this year and expected recovery to our original GDP trajectory late 2022, according to the OECD. Our economy's relative resilience has been attributed to a few things: government support for businesses and individuals, vaccination rates, significant fiscal stimulus, commodity exports, and the prospects of increased demand arising from the US fiscal package. However, although COVID-19 affects people indiscriminately, the economic crisis has been extremely inequitable. In Canada, accommodation and food services, manufacturing, and retail trade are the top 3 business categories receiving the most support from the Canadian government in order to keep workers employed throughout the pandemic. These workers have been impacted dramatically with layoffs, forced use of vacation, and wage and shift reductions. In addition, remote learning and reduced childcare capacity have forced many parents who cannot work from home into some very tough choices. When you dig a little deeper, you can see gender, race, and age bias for unemployment. Women, visible minorities, and youth have disproportionately experienced financial strain, often in lower paying jobs to begin with. Conversely, those in higher income brackets with the ability to work from home haven't enjoyed the discretionary spending they normally do in travel, accommodation, retail. These folks have been either investing in their homes or sitting on a bunch of discretionary income that should get invested into the economy as we reopen. It's a really inequitable situation, which will lead to an inequitable recovery unless we're thoughtful in how we approach it. We need to learn from this lesson. Investment in zero emissions public transit infrastructure on both sides of the border will lead to good jobs in the manufacturing and clean energy sector. We are so fortunate that Canada has such a vibrant presence in both industries. And as the jobs come back, it's important to remove barriers, making the industry inaccessible to those most impacted: women, youth, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, otherwise known as the BIPOC community. Today's issue is one of urgency. From an economic perspective, we cannot afford to take years between the announcement of investments and the resulting demand for labor. Employment recovery depends on it happening faster. And while I'm not certain that every job or industry can be made pandemic-proof, I do believe that making our organizations diverse, equitable, and inclusive will mean that the hard times and tough choices have nothing to do with race or gender. It's a complicated challenge to solve, but if we're truly to build back better, equity must be central to our solutions. The transition to zero-emission transportation presents the need for a skilled technical workforce. Technicians, electricians, engineers, all skills that are scarce in the current labor market. In 2020, new registrations and certifications in skilled trades decreased by 43% and 49% respectively, following a year of decline in 2019. Employment rates are rising again, and we run the risk that we will create good jobs but won't be able to recruit into them. Stats Canada reported that as of January, young Canadians represented 44% of the net employment losses through the pandemic. Women were also disproportionately impacted. So workforce development, education, and encouragement for youth, women, and marginalized populations to pursue skilled trades and science, technology, and engineering related jobs has to be part of the solution. It's also imperative that private industries step up and participate in this activity. At NFI, we've identified workforce development as a 4th pillar in our technology roadmap. This year, we launched our electrical technician apprenticeship program to support the transition. We hope to collaborate with local colleges in our communities to have this program accredited. It will also be necessary for employers to think differently about how we work. The ability to balance homeschooling and caregiving duties with remote work throughout the pandemic has been absolutely critical for many of our team members. We've learned quite a bit about productivity and communication and are hoping to bring these lessons forward to create an inclusive, accommodating, and productive environment for everyone on an ongoing basis. One of the most impressive and controversial outcomes of the pandemic is the rapid innovation of vaccines. According to Johns Hopkins, the typical development time for a vaccine is 10 years. The scientists and manufacturers who cooperated, responded, and developed COVID-19 vaccines in 10 months are truly superheroes, in my opinion. The ability to pivot and rapidly harness science and innovation in a crisis is a superpower. One of the reasons vaccine development was accomplished so quickly was the significant amount of data and analysis to inform development. We can learn from this moment and apply it to the climate crisis. Rapid innovation in zero-emission transportation and clean energy requires using analysis, trial prioritization, testing, and experimentation based on risks and outcomes, and that we realize that a linear process of prototyping, pilot projects, and gradual transition in each city simply isn't going to be fast enough to achieve those climate targets. We need modeling and big data. We need to spend our time developing standards and test protocols rather than custom sequential experimentation. At NFI, we're enabling innovation through investments and plans in our four-pillar approach, which includes buses and coaches. This year, we launched 6 distinct new innovations in our EV and AV portfolio. Infrastructure, our infrastructure solutions business is growing dramatically as a key enabler. Technology and telematics to collect the data we need to innovate. And workforce development to foster talent and upskilling needing to move the technology forward and manufacture at scale. In March, the UN urged all countries, companies, and financial institutions to commit to net zero or carbon neutrality, with clear and credible plans starting immediately. Our country leaders have made their commitments. Many cities have made commitments and developed transition plans. We need urgent action to cascade these commitments everywhere. Companies and industries also need to develop plans. Plans don't need to be perfect, they need to be better, and they need to be now. At NFI, our annual environmental, social, and governance reporting covers electrification, sourcing, sustainability, and diversity actions and results, all central to our plans. Learn more at nfigroup.com/ESG. And there's a positive impact economically to our clean economy. It provides good jobs to Canadians, fosters healthy communities, and delivers returns to shareholders. We need to make investing in the clean economy attractive to Canadians. In closing, we have a precious and valuable opportunity in our hands to build back better. We have never before in Canada's history seen commitments or dollars flow to transit like this. And so what is better? Better is doing our part to mitigate climate change through rapid transition to clean energy and zero-emission transportation at scale. Better is developing a diverse and resilient workforce where the consequences of crises, such as pandemics and natural disasters, are not disproportionately felt by marginalized communities, women, and youth. And better is investing in a rapid innovation to a clean economy. At the end of the day, better is acting urgently to build thriving, resilient communities and economies. And time is not on our side. Please, let's do our part. Thank you.